The date is August 19th, 2017. We're in Anaheim, California. Ryota Otsubo steps onto a large stage, the heat of the lights pressing down as he takes his seat across from his opponent. A low hum fills the air as the sounds of hundreds of voices blend into a deep, resonant buzz that he can feel reverberating in his chest. The battle he's about to fight is the kind that becomes legend. And when Ryota's name is written into the history of competitive VGC, it will be right beside his favorite Pokemon. Hey champs, my name is Professor Josh and I specialize in Pokemon VGC history and lore. If that kind of thing interests you, check out my channel where I dive into the most iconic moments, legendary trainers, and unforgettable battles in VGC. Now, Ryota Otsubo's climb to the world stage is an amazing story, made even better by the fact that he was able to do it with his favorite Pokemon of all time. That's why in this video, we're going to take a closer look at that Pokemon and the competitive moment that earned its place in VGC history. But before we dive in, I want to say thank you. This video is a direct follow-up to my earlier video titled How These Pros Won with Their Favorite Pokemon. Link is on the screen and in the description. In that video, I asked if you wanted a part 2, and the response was loud and clear. So today, let's look at another 4 trainers, 4 Pokemon, and 4 moments when the pros won with their favorite Pokemon. August 20th, 2017 was a warm, sunny day in Anaheim, California. But like any good Pokemon player, Ryota Otsubo wasn't outside. Instead, he'd spent the last several hours under the fluorescent lights of the Anaheim Convention Center. Remember champs, nobody has ever become world champion by touching grass. That's my professional tip for you. Sitting across from him was Tomoyuki Yoshimura, known in the community as Snow. Tomoyuki was on a tear, and for many, the favorite to win the entire tournament. And for good reason too. Tomoyuki had an impressive track record for this tournament, even beating Shoma Hanomi, the 2015 Pokemon World Champion. Nervous, understandably, but undeterred, for round 1, he locked in his lead. Tapu Fini and his favorite Pokemon of all time, Crocodile. Now, calling Crocodile an underdog in this meta would be a massive understatement. Drampa had a higher usage rate than Crocodile going into Anaheim, and by day 2, Ryota was the only player still using one. Still, he had his reasons. Although its base stats are inferior to Garchomp, it has Intimidate, making it suitable for cycle battles and good support for Lele and Celesteela. It is not 4 times weak to Ice, so it's easy to use in front of Porygon 2 and Nihilego, an advantage that Garchomp does not have. Crocodile wasn't just on the team. It was the engine that made the whole strategy run. He built his team to rotate Crocodile in and out of battle alongside his bulkier partners. Each switch triggered Crocodile's Intimidate ability, lowering the opponent's attack stat. This in turn made the bulk on those partner Pokemon harder to overcome, which in turn made it easier to switch in Crocodile, which in turn made the bulk on those partner Pokemon harder to overcome, which in turn, you get the idea. But Crocodile wasn't on the team just for its ability. Ryota's Crocodile also carried Taunt and 204 speed EVs, letting it outspeed common support Pokemon like Mandibuzz and Porygon 2, while also shutting down dangerous setup options like Belly Drum Snorlax. And yes, it could hit hard too, with Earthquake, Crunch, and very importantly, Groudon Z, which gave Crocodile access to a powerful 100 base attack move in Tectonic Rage. Otsubo's favorite Pokemon could punch some pretty serious holes in his opponent's teams. In fact, you could argue that Crocodile was perfect for this meta, especially with strong matchups into Mega Metagross or Tapu Koko, which, by the way, had a 54% usage rate for Worlds that year. That's 44.17 times higher than Drampa's usage, in case you were wondering. Nervous as he was, Ryota would ultimately triumph over Tomoyuki on that sunny California day, in a close 3-game set that would eventually be immortalized in the Pokemon Company's web series, Pokemon Championships History, here on YouTube. And the story doesn't end there. Ryota would eventually go on a run that would crown him as the 2017 Pokemon World Champion. This win would also cement an unintentional tradition of a Japanese player winning every other World Championship since the tournament's inception. And it all started with one trainer trusting that his favorite Pokemon had what it took to go all the way. We're going to hop into the next story, but before we do, I have a very quick favor to ask. It does take a lot of time to research and tell these stories, so if you're enjoying the content so far, please consider subscribing. It is free, but it does help me out quite a bit. And of course, if you are enjoying the video, a like goes a long way. All right, that's good. How do I get out of here without touching grass? Actually, how'd I get here? You're about to learn a lesser-known fact about the most famous battle in competitive Pokemon history. This is the Walter E. Washington Convention Center in Washington, D.C., where the 2014 Pokemon World Championship took place. And this is Sejun Park, in the moment that made his Pachirisu a legend.
Probably originally targeted for that guard jump, will connect, will deal some good damage, but we've already seen not enough. That Pachirisu's so bulky.
But believe it or not, Pachirisu wasn't Sejun Park's favorite Pokemon. At least, not at the time. Today, his social media makes it easy to think that Pachirisu has always been his number one. But heading into the 2014 World Championship, that title actually belonged to Gyarados. Hey, listen, look at me. Listen to my disclaimer before you get up in arms. My gosh, your face is getting so red. The reason I didn't include this story in the first video is because this is the only one that includes a small bit of speculation. After 2014, Sejun has been pretty open about Pachirisu becoming his favorite Pokemon post-tournament. However, before Worlds, Sejun had never publicly committed to a favorite Pokemon of all time. What we do know though is that in 2014, when Gyarados received a Mega Evolution, Sejun decided that he was going to come back to it again and again to try to make that Pokemon into a champion. Back to the story. I decided to build a new team in a short amount of time, and the first Pokemon I considered was Mega Gyarados. In order to take advantage of Gyarados' power, I needed a Pokemon that had Rage Powder or Follow Me. Finally, there were certain Pokemon that Mega Gyarados was weak against, so I used Gothitelle to remedy this weakness. Going into the 2014 World Championship, Sejun considered Mega Gyarados a powerful and deeply underrated attacker. He believed in its potential, and he was going to bet everything on it. To support it, he carefully chose partner Pokemon like Talonflame for speed control, Pachirisu for redirection and electric-type coverage, and Gothitelle with Thunder Wave and Tickle to slow down and weaken key threats like Mega Salamence and Mega Mawile. With this full cast, Sejun gave Gyarados the space it needed to shine, and it delivered. His Gyarados came equipped with Earthquake, Waterfall, Dragon Dance, and Protect. Thanks to its Mold Breaker ability and a fully maxed out attack stat, Mega Gyarados could take out common threats that usually dodged Earthquake, like Rotom. And after a single Dragon Dance, it could even KO Mega Tyranitar with Waterfall, something very few Pokemon could do at the time. Eat your heart out, Lindule. And one more thing, Sejun trained his Gyarados with 252 speed EVs, giving it the speed stat of 133. That may not sound like much, but after a Dragon Dance, it could outspeed threats like Choice Scarf Gardevoir. That's right. Remember, to become world champion, just keep spamming setup moves. Probably. That's another professional tip for you. That day and that tournament in the Walter E. Washington Convention Center may always be tied to one tiny Pikachu clone. For most players, maybe even you, Pachirisu will always be the star of the show. But for one trainer in particular, that day belonged to an entire team built to support the rise of his favorite Pokemon. This one's for all you Trick Room fans out there. Eduardo Cunha is many things. A consistent Pokemon World qualifier, a 2019 Oceania International Champion, and the 2022 Pokemon World Champion. He has a resume that most players could only dream of. But according to Eduardo himself, Few moments compare to the 2017 Madrid special event, where he took home the championship title atop his trusted steed and favorite Pokemon of all time, Mudsdale. Eduardo's Mudsdale, like many Pokemon on this list, is a perfect example of how a specific Pokemon with the right tools can become a powerful counter to the biggest threats in the meta. With a base defense of 100 and a matching HP, Mudsdale could tank heavy physical hits from top tier threats like Snorlax, Arcanine, and Garchomp. And thanks to its ability Stamina, which raises its defense every time it takes a hit, Mudsdale often won damage trades that other Pokemon simply couldn't. Its ground typing gave it a strong matchup against Tapu Koko, which was on nearly every team going into this tournament. What? At first glance, Mudsdale looks like a niche bulky attacker. For newer players, think of it like Iron Hands. And like Iron Hands, Mudsdale was often paired with the Assault Vest item, sacrificing non-damaging moves for a boosted special defense. But that wasn't Eduardo's vision for his favorite Pokemon. As a seasoned equestrian, well, in the Pokemon sense, Eduardo built his Mudsdale to be the premier Trick Room sweeper of his team. He dropped the Assault Vest in favor of a Figgy Berry to extend its longevity and gave it Protect, ensuring Mudsdale could survive long enough for Trick Room to activate. Once the dimensions were twisted, Mudsdale could let loose with powerful moves like Close Combat, High Horsepower, and Heavy Slam. Heavy Slam deserves a special mention. It's a Steel-type move whose power scales with the weight difference between the user and its target. At 2,028 pounds or 920 kilograms, Mudsdale dealt out colossal damage against lighter Pokemon like the Tapus or Nihilego, in exchange for not being able to damage things of similar weight like Celesteela or your mom. Most importantly though was Mudsdale's speed, or lack thereof. With a base speed of 35, the same speed as the unevolved Pokemon Clefairy, Mudsdale was almost always going first under Trick Room. Eduardo used this to his advantage again and again, until finally, he and Mudsdale stood as champions. Mudsdale is known for both its powerful body and its emotional fortitude, which keeps it from getting agitated. Regardless of the problem it finds itself in, it will never scream and it will defeat its opponents with a single blow. It is my favorite Pokemon. I came to share this curiosity with you and also say that I identify with all of its characteristics. That guy really loves Mudsdale. What does it mean to be the best? The date is August 24th, 2018, and players from around the world have gathered in the vibrant, musical city of Nashville, Tennessee to answer that very question. Among them, some traveling as far as Japan, stands Paul Ruiz. For context, Paul is a Latin American player, and that region has produced some exceptional talent. But it was often overlooked for a very, very long time. By the 2018 Pokemon World Championship, no Latin American player had claimed an international title for that entire year, repeatedly falling to champions from the United States and Europe. Paul knew that if he was going to put both his name and his region on the map, he would need a powerful team of Pokemon, and leading that team was his longtime favorite, Salamence. Now champs, I've covered a lot of Japan's player base lately, mostly because their history is deep and I haven't seen a lot of content about it out here in the West. And the same is true for Latin America. Paul's 2018 run is just one of many incredible stories from that region. And so yes, more stories from this region are also on their way. Coming back to Paul though, like I said, he knew Salamence would lead the charge. At the time, the meta favored a slower, bulkier version of Mega Salamence. While fast threats existed, the pace of play wasn't as intense as it is today. Most players were content to lean on its base 120 speed without any other investment. But Paul saw something that others didn't. Instead of going all out in bulk, Paul took a different path. Just 44 EVs in HP, 4 in defense, and 4 in special defense. The rest went into attack and speed. With 228 EVs in speed and just 1 Dragon Dance, Salamence could suddenly outspeed threats it had no business outspeeding, like bulky Mega Gengar, Alolan Persian, even Braviary under Tailwind. And thanks to the remaining 228 EVs intact, it could knock them out too. But speed wasn't his only edge. Paul Salamence used a devastating combo of Double Edge and Roost. Because of its ability aerialate, Double Edge became a flying type move, getting the same type attack bonus and hitting at a monstrous 216 base power. After dishing out massive damage, Salamence could protect to preserve health or Roost to recover HP, and then start the cycle all over again. Paul's Salamence was just producing damage that was unmatched. Nobody was using Salamence like Paul was. As the tournament went on, Paul kept winning. Top 16, Carson Confer, United States. Top 8, Roberto Peretti, Europe. Top 4, Nils Dunlop, Europe. Finals, Emilio Forbes, United States. But at the end of it all stood one player, the world champion, Paul Ruiz, Latin America. Paul Ruiz became the first Latin American Pokemon World Champion. He became the best, and the Mega Pokemon he chose to do it with, his favorite, Salamence. Champs, thanks again for making part 2 happen. These stories remind me a lot about why I got into VGC history and why I love it so much. It reminds you that there's always going to be opportunities, given the right team, in the right moment, to win with your favorites. And at the very least, I think these stories were worth telling. I mean, if you're like me, then you got into VGC because you wanted to win with your favorite Pokemon. So I hope you enjoyed hearing these stories. My next video, by the way, is going to be my Worlds 2025 special, where I'm going to be highlighting some of the history made at Worlds this year. I think there's going to be some great stories in that for you too. I hope you'll come by and check it out. So, with that being said, I will see you in the next video, and as always, thanks for watching.
Pika pika.
Help? Hello? How did I? Help?